Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Guild Wars 2 ESL Pro Leagues for North America. I am Joe Storm Noah Sell, and back with me once again is Christian Hurix Thomaser. We're in week 3 of play, and we've got a lot of exciting matches coming your way.
Yeah, absolutely. A ton of great matches today. Actually, some really interesting comps that we're going to be seeing today. Really looking forward to it, seeing how teams have progressed over since the last week, and it's going to be really entertaining to watch for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is. Let's go ahead and take a look at our schedule for the remainder of the Pro League season. We are in week 3 on December 7th. We will have one more week followed by a break in December and rounding out the rest of the Pro League in January with the studio finals over on February 20th. So a lot of great action coming your way over the next few weeks. What about that format?
Yeah, so of course, all of these teams are going to be vying for a $200,000 total prize pool over the course of the next 7 weeks, which we will be using a round-robin format so that each team has one opportunity to fight every other team. All these matches are going to be best of 3, of course, and that's going to be 16 teams in total, of course, 8 teams per region, and the top 2 teams from each of those corresponding regions will then be able to qualify for the season finals come February 20th. Of course, this will be Conquest 5-on-5. We have 4 maps that are going to be used in the competitive rotation. Today, we will be seeing, in order, Battle of Kylo, Temple of the Silent Storm, and then on to Forest of Niflheim for that tiebreaker. So a lot of fun that's going to be had today. It's definitely going to be interesting as we haven't ever opened a tournament with Battle of Kylo. So yeah, this will definitely be pretty interesting to watch as teams, I mean, as we've stated in the past, haven't seen much in terms of Kylo and Temple. So it's going to be an interesting day for sure.
Yeah, those are 2 maps you rarely actually see going to a 3rd game. So really excited to see both of them in play for today. But of course, all of these teams are still vying for that total prize pool of $200,000. Taking a look at what we have for that: $10,000 to first, $9,000 to second, all the way down to $2,500 for 8th place. So still looking for those placements for all those teams, and of course the top 2 from NA and top 2 from EU, as you mentioned earlier, still going for a lot of money. That would be $50,000 for the number 1 at the season finals, all the way down to $12,500 for 3rd and 4th place. So a lot on the line for all of those guys today. But of course, if you can't join us for all of the matches, you can definitely head over to social media. You can follow ESL on Twitter and Facebook over at ESL GW2 to follow along with the action and catch some of the highlights. But of course, as always, we still have the gold betting. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so right now you guys can type !gold in the chat right now. You can find that you do have some gold in your account right now tied to your Twitch account. You can use that gold to bet on the matches, and whoever has the most gold at the end of the day will be able to walk away with the gem prize. So definitely make sure you guys follow that. Bet on the teams you think are going to win. Bet on your favorite teams, whatever you want to do, but make sure you bet for sure.
Now let's go ahead and take a look at our current standings for the North American Pro League. As 2 weeks down, we still are in our third week, of course. The Abjured, Apex Prime, and Spooky all at the top with 6 points. Easy Peasy and Final Form following them with 3. And Never Lucky, Team Peasy, and Zero Counterplay all in 6th place, all looking to battle it out. Looking at our schedule, though, for the day, what do we got going on with that?
Yeah, so the first matchup that we're going to be able to see here is going to be Final Form versus the Abjured, and we're going to have that ready for you just a couple minutes. And Final Form is actually a team that is coming off of, I mean, they're sitting now at 1-1, and I think that they actually have a shot to take at least a map off of the Abjured, but that'll be a good one. Moving on to match 2, we will see Team PZ versus Spooky, and that is, in my opinion, the feature match of the week, because that is going to be a huge match for us going into that second one.
Definitely is. Following that, we will see Zero Counterplay against Easy Peasy Lemon Squeezy, 2 teams that definitely could provide a good matchup for us. And then our final match of the day, Never Lucky up against the 2-0 Apex Prime. So a lot of great matches coming your way. But of course, our first one, Final Form up against the Abjured. Final Form sitting 1-1 after dropping their match last week. And the Abjured, of course, are 2-0. What can you expect from this matchup?
I mean, what we can expect is Abjured to try to make some kind of change, because, I mean, over the past 2 weeks, I mean, we didn't see them the first week. And then last week, we saw them go against PZ, and they dropped the map. And granted, they did very good in Legacy to try to make up for some mistakes that they had on Forest, and answering the Dragon Hunter that actually did very well versus them on the prior map on Forest. But we're going to have to see them make a couple more adjustments if they're going to be able to take this one, because Final Form is ready for them. They've been scrimming, and I think they got something to their sleeve.
And one of the teams you think about when it comes to potentially beating the Abjured in a set is Final Form. They've got a very unorthodox comp, and I'm not sure if it's unorthodox anymore compared to what we could possibly see today, but a couple of Rangers, a couple of Mesmers, Bob can play Ellie or Engineer. There's a lot of flexibility in that, and I think they could definitely center that around perhaps counter-comping the Absurd. But of the Absurd, they kind of stick to what their roots, what
Yeah.
they are really comfortable with. So going up against something like double Mesmer, double Ranger, that could be very difficult for them.
Yeah, it definitely could. I mean, there's things that they have to prepare for, and I think that they have done a lot in the past week to make sure that they are kind of prepared for anything at this point, because both teams actually have a couple of tricks up their sleeve, I know for sure. And I know that a couple of guys that you probably wouldn't expect to try certain things have been trying those things over the past week. So it'd be interesting to see if those kind of things come out, and we'll be looking out for them for sure. And I actually kind of hope they do, because it'll be interesting to see what happens if it does.
Yeah, it definitely does. Let's go ahead and take a look at our first matches. We have both teams actually joining on the Battle of Kylo. Over on the red, we have the Absurd. Over on the blue, that would be Final Form. It looks like all 5 of Final Form are joined up. Why don't you take us away with their builds?
All right, looking here first at Sup Cutie, your boy here, and that's going to be him starting off here on Mace Axe with the Sword Shield, of course, with the Condi Rev Viper Amulet, with the Rune of Durability, and he's going to be taking up Retribution, Corruption, and Herald, so a lot of damage coming with this guy. And he actually has done quite well with training with this over the course of the last week, but of course, Sup Cutie known for that Mesmer play, and we do actually see 2 different Mesmers on this team, so he's opted to not play Mesmer in this scenario when we know that Sup Cutie is definitely in the running for one of the top Mesmers in North America at this stage. But that next guy right there is going to be one of the Mesmers, and that is going to be Ozzy, and he does have that staff and the sword shield, so we are going to be seeing a bunker Mesmer right here, and that's going to be with Rune of Durability and the Sentinel Amulet, and he's chosen to take up Inspiration, Chaos, and Chronomancer, and this typically is the build that we're going to be seeing. However, this is the Mantra version. He's going to have that Mantra of Recovery, and he's going to be able to get a lot more healing because of that, and that's actually something that we saw Marvin take up last week, and it was very, very effective, and I believe Marvin's going to be continuing that today. However,
yeah, I mean, something to note here is he's also running Time Warp over the Gravity Well. We started to see a little bit more Time Warp. It was really revolving around Gravity Well, so seeing Time Warp being taken is definitely something to watch out for on this map.
Yeah, and this is actually something that I think they're going to try to cater their comp to, and we'll go over that once we get over to Zeromus. But next we do have Bob, actually, and this is, I think, the 3rd different profession that we've seen in 3 weeks from Bob.
Elementalist to the Engineer, I think, now over to Revenant.
Yeah.
So that's good to have that flexibility with him.
Yeah, so he's going to be picking up that Staff and Sword Shield with Rune Alyssa, actually going for a Marauder Revenant as opposed to the Condi that we've seen a lot of lately, and even from his teammate there, Sup Cutie, and he's going to be picking up Devastation, Retribution, and Herald there. So again, he's going to be having that Herald there, but not the same condition pressure that, of course, Sup Cutie is going to be able to provide. Granted, Sup Cutie is going to provide that in full effect with that Viper Amulet, so that's going to have a lot of damage for them to worry about on 2 fronts, both power and condition. Next, though, we do have Urantian, and he's going to be on the Staff Longbow Druid here, actually opting for the Crusader Amulet here. And this is, if I'm not mistaken, one of, if not the first time that we've ever seen Crusader Amulet in an ESL tournament, and definitely Pro League in my opinion. But he is going to be opting for that Rune of Durability, and he's going to be going for Skirmishing, Marksmanship, and Druid there.
I know something with Urantian. He likes his build crafting, theory crafting, all of these builds, and he loves marksmanship. He's one of the guys that always took marksmanship on Power Ranger, and not a whole lot of people always take this or consider this line one that's viable. So we'll have to see how he does. Like you said, Crusader Amulet. Very interesting to see that coming into play here.
I actually really like marksmanship, especially with Druid, because Moment of Clarity is obviously going to add to that daze, going to add some damage pressure that you're going to be able to get out after you get those dazes off. And of course, he does have that Glyph of Equality there as well. So he does have a lot of CC that he can do, single target, even AoE as well. And of course, you can make use of that Clarion Bond there from the marksmanship tree as well. As soon as he swaps his pet, he's going to be able to blast his own water field that comes out of the Celestial Avatar form, the Rejuvenating Tide. So he's going to have a lot of great play that he can get out of this tree should he use it correctly. However, next we do have Zeromus, and this is that second Mesmer that we were talking about, and that's going to be Staff, Sword Shield, once again with the Sentinel Amulet with Rune of Durability, and he's going to go, of course, with Chaos, Inspiration, and Chronomancer, opting for the same build as his teammate Ozzy here, and this is the second Time Warp, and the reason being is because in these team fights, that slow and that quickness in these team fights can actually amount to be so very much in the resistance. They're going to be able to potentially it doesn't look that, yeah, they're going to be able to potentially go ahead and basically just kind of nullify a lot of the damage that is going to be able to come out of any of the condition pressure that's going to be coming from members like Nos, like Wakey, like 5-Gauge, and even Fanaram if he's taking conditions, which it doesn't look like that he's actually he is going to be doing. So that is actually a great pickup from them.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if Zeroma's the king of portals. We know that. Ozzy, though, we saw him on Temple of the Silent Storm last week with the Mesmer. They didn't really flourish with portals as well as they had in the past, and we'll have to see if he has adapted, as made improvements on the Mesmer from last week. But taking a look at the Abjured, who have 4 of 5 members joined up here. First up, we have Wakey on the Elementalist, still running that dagger focus with Rune of the Soldier, Celestial Amulet. He will be taking Earth, Water, and Tempest, of course, with Rebound, actually opting for 5 shouts here. 5 shouts coming out from Wakey. This is it's a lot of support, a lot of good stuff for his team. We'll have to see how it fares for him. Next up, 5-Gauge, going to be playing that Engineer, running with the Hammer, Rune of Durability, opting for Marauders today. He will be taking Inventions, Alchemy, and Scrapper for himself, of course, with that Sneak Gyro, the Stealth Gyro, of course, Slick Shoes, and Elixir Gun. So look for him to be putting out a lot of damage, possibly even 1v1s for his team. Thanarim, as you mentioned, going to be running that Viper's Amulet. He will be running with the Sword, Shield, Mace, Axe, with Rune of Durability. He'll be taking Retribution, Corruption, and Herald. So a lot of Condi, a lot of good pressure coming out from him, similar to that of what we saw from Subcutie. And finally, Nos, he will be, of course, on the Necromancer, running the Staff, Dagger Warhorn, with Rune of Durability, Celestial Amulet. He'll be taking Soul Reaping, Spite, and Reaper. So nothing too crazy. This is stuff we're fairly accustomed to seeing from the Abjured. Anything that, you know, maybe they could change up that you think they might put them at a better advantage against Final Form here?
Yeah, so one thing that I've noticed actually between both teams, before I go into that, I've noticed that 4 out of the 5 users from both teams are using that Rune of Durability, and honestly, what I cater that to is actually, I mean, the Condition Revenant. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, you need that resistance, and while those guys are going to be able to go into Malix and pop that resistance themselves, as well as the Mesmers being able to provide some of that, you need resistance to kind of deal with the amount of pressure that you're going to be seeing, condition-based pressure that you're going to be seeing throughout this match. I mean, Nos going to be able to provide it. Fanaram going to be able to provide it. Wakey going to be able to provide it. 5-Gauge going to be able to provide it. I mean, the only kind of condition pressure that you're not going to be seeing from Abjured is going to be from Toker if he's opting for that Thief today, which you never know. He could also go Revenant. I know he has that up his sleeves. He could definitely go for that as well. On the side of...
Heck, he could go for Engineer if he wanted to. He's played some of that in the past. Without it, we'll see it on this map. But like you said, there's so much condition pressure and just pressure overall from the Abjured, and we see them time after time. 3, 4, even all 5 members on a single target. They're so good at pressuring people down, not allowing for reses at points in time. It's going to be very difficult for Final Form here to try and keep up with that.
Yeah, and you definitely can't count out the protection that rune provides. I mean, this is definitely, if you're going for a team fight, and you're looking to kind of build for a comp for a team fight, and you're looking to kind of create a lot of synergy, and you can kind of fill in things throughout the build, and you're just looking for some sort of way to synergize with your team through the rune set, and you're looking at durability runes for a defensive style, and you're looking at pack runes for an offensive style. And what we've kind of seen with the current meta is that there's just so much damage that is being able to be put out throughout both, I mean, pretty much any composition that we've seen, that durability runes really have been the reason, or really have been kind of the way that teams have been able to kind of push some of that damage aside, at least for some period of time, because I mean that protection and that resistance are going to keep them alive for at least a little bit longer. Sometimes it just gets ripped off.
Yeah, and something to think about for today in the overall picture of what's going on in the Pro League is, of course, the Abjured are 2-0 right now. We've got this Final Form team sitting at 1-1 after dropping their set last week. What are the implications you think this has for Final Form? I mean, of course, these guys, Apex, Spooky, they're all at a good spot to try and get for that top 2. But PZ, of course, down there as well. But they still are in a good spot as well if they continue to rack up some wins here.
Yeah, so the thing about PZ is that despite them being 0-2, they're still a team that, in my opinion, are very much in contention for taking one of those first 2 slots. And the reason I say that is that actually, I mean, they've been doing very, very well in scrimmages. Pretty much, I mean, in terms of winning sets, I think they're actually undefeated in scrims, which, I mean, again, you can't really take that much away from that. You never know what teams are doing, if they're trying stuff out, that kind of thing. But it does kind of at least hint at the fact that this team is actually really, really, really strong, and we'll be able to see them today versus Spooky against a team that, in my opinion, they're kind of even a little bit, and we'll be able to see if PZ is able to take that, because if they do, Spooky drops to 2-1, we'll be seeing PZ at 1-2, and if PZ can take the rest of their matches, only dropping to Apex and the Absurd, two teams that are kind of in contention as well, we'll have to see. I mean, then Spooky going up against Apex Prime as well later on in the season, I believe actually the last week. If Spooky then takes that, then PZ has a shot here.
Yeah, and something to note, like you mentioned about Spooky, of course, Cade no longer being on that roster. Yep. That is huge. I mean, not only does that, I mean, Cade is known for Thief. He doesn't play anything but Thief. And going into today's matches, Spooky might know they might not have the upper hand and maybe skilled in that sense, but they have more flexibility by far without him, because he loves to play Thief. And it seems like perhaps they brought someone on like Physics, perhaps, which, if I'm not mistaken, that is their 5th.
Yep.
So bringing that in, there's a little bit more flexibility in that area, and it'd be interested to see how they're going to fare against PZ. But back to this match, one thing that's really, I think, is definitely going to show how good Final Form is with this new composition. In the past, we'd seen 3 Mesmers come out from them last week. We saw 2 Mesmers and two Druids, for that matter, and an Engineer from Bob. A new composition almost every week from these guys. I'm really curious to see how Ozzy and Zeromus, like I mentioned earlier, are going to play with their portals and play with that Time Warp. It's going to be very interesting to see how they will be able to fare, especially running those wells. I mean, they're bunkers. So with that Sentinel's Amulet, they're going to be able to keep themselves alive for quite some time. And that Time Warp, somebody goes down, they're able to get them back up almost immediately.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And the one thing, I mean, about Final Form, like you talked about, yeah, that double Mesmer, double Rev, they have a lot of damage, and they went for Druid with their 5th. And we might actually see a little bit of this going on later in the day, where we're going to be able to see probably that double Mesmer, probably the double Revenant as well. We're going to be seeing different kind of methods of kind of achieving this and seeing how teams do with this. And the reason that we're going to be seeing a lot of Mesmers today, of course, is going to be the maps that we're going to be seeing, which is going to be, of course, Kylo and Temple. And on those maps, I mean, it becomes really, really, really effective to have things that are very mobile and very kind of good at being kind of bruisers. And Revenants, in my opinion, as far as all of the assassins go, they're kind of the best at getting around and making sure that they can at least hold a point in a 1v1 for a little bit longer. I mean, you talk about some of the other assassins, things like Thief, things like, I mean, even maybe like a Power Ranger or, I mean, a Zerker, Mesmer, or something like that. They can't really hold down those points like a Revenant can. You have that Crystal Hibernation, I mean, a double Crystal Hibernation, of course. Then you have, of course, Herald being able to be brought in, that some guys have been choosing, I mean, as an opposition to that condition build. But, I mean, they have been able to kind of be bruisers, and it's actually kind of interesting to see. And of course, they're also very mobile, and they can get around. And honestly, on these 2 maps that we're going to be having, that is those are the most 2 important things for an assassin. And you talk about a Mesmer, they're able to tank on a point as well. I mean, just as well as kind of any tank out there at the moment. And then, of course, they have the ability to play with portals, and that's going to be everything in this matchup. And that's where we're seeing a lot of it today. And teams know this, and teams are looking out for it. And I actually really like the fact that teams are actually thinking about the maps that they're going on and ways to counter-comp each other. And it's going to be a really interesting day for sure.
I definitely love seeing that from all these teams. But unfortunately, the 5th member from the Absurd seems to have some complications with his client. So we are going to head to a short break, guys. And when we're back, we will have Final Form against the Absurd. Stay with us. welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the North American Pro League. We do have our match ready for you. Final form up against the Absurd. Let's go ahead and head into the arena as we have both teams finally ready to go. Predictions on this match, as we already went through all the builds. What are your predictions for this set here, Jurks?
I expect a little bit of a surprise here from Final Form. I think they actually have a shot to take this map potentially. I mean, the way that these Mesmers and the Revenants are going to work off of each other, if Yura can actually stay with the rotations and actually do a good job like I know he is used to doing and maintaining his rotations and kind of being where he needs to be in some of these team fights and keeping these Mesmers up, holding the points, holding everything down, I think Final Form actually has a shot, but you never know what Absurd has cooked up. I say we have a little bit of an upset on this first map here.
I do as well, and honestly, I want to say I feel Final Form can take this. Heading into the map here, let's go ahead and take a look at the opening splits for both of these teams as we begin our first match of week number 3. Looks like Magic Toker going to be heading to the Windmill. We have Urantian and Bob both going to the Mansion. Looks like a big push actually might be coming into the midpoint and 3-point play coming out for both these teams right out of the gate.
Yeah, it looks like Zeromus and Ozzy, the two Mesmers from this Final Four team, are both going to mid and far here, and we're going to have a little bit of an interesting fight here on the Mansion, where it is going to be Bob and Yura versus Wakey and Fanaram, and Wakey and Fanaram actually doing a good job so far. However, Fanaram taking a little bit of pressure here, already now down to about 50% HP, was able to get some heals from his teammate, but I mean, everything else aside, it looks like actually Absurd with a pretty easy startup with Toker taking that windmill cap already. It looks like Subcutie going to be heading over there though, but Toker actually might finish him off
I don't know.
before that even happens.
Gets his heal off just barely. He'll need to try and, I mean, he's going to get some support from Zeromus. There goes down the Time Warp. The Condi's trying to take, he's going to be taking down Zeromus. Should be able to get this free res though. Oh, the stomp actually coming out there from Toker, using that elite to his advantage, getting the stop. That was a huge pickup and still holding onto this windmill cap. The Absurd are sitting pretty.
Yeah, the biggest thing right there is that when Zeromus puts down that evade well, it's not actually going to prevent any damage going into the downstate. That effect does not apply to the downstate player, so he's going to be able to then actually finish him off with that elite, like you said. But look at this right now, 40-0 actually in favor of the Absurd, looking extremely healthy across the board right now, taking advantage of Yura being down to about 40% HP and the damage being brought down upon him. The Condi pressure even. Look at Yura right here being taken down already. Absurd are all over the map right now, just controlling everything, and Yura is down once again here. And now blue team needs to figure something out, get back into mid it looks like, and they're going to be taking on Chase to try to maybe get the first cap in their stead for the first time in all game.
We've seen 2 Time Warps come out already, one from Zeromus, one from Ozzy, both unsuccessful. The Absurd seem to have found what works against her, at least for the time being. Maybe it was just a misplay by Final Form, but 5-gauge Elixir S coming out for him. He needs to stand still because that Torment is ticking. He will be taken down though. Subcutie and Zeromus will get this stop. Wakey actually coming in for the res, not able to get it. The first cap of the game coming out at the clock tower for Final Form.
Yeah, Fanaram in the meantime was able to get some help from his teammate here and take out Ozzy. He went for the stomp here. They might actually have a 2 cap in just a couple of moments here. Zeromus looks like he's going to try to prevent that though. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to make it with Nos on his tail, and that is the case. He's not going to be able to do it. So now it's going to be Fanaram versus Zeromus here, which will probably be stalemated as we wait for Ozzy to come back up off of a respawn here. We do see a little bit of an aggressive front, however, from blue team onto Mansion. They were able to get the decap off on Windmill, which is a huge pickup from them because they absolutely needed to prevent that double cap being done right there.
The double cap, it's really hard to come back against the Absurd when they're double capped for so long, but the kill coming out from Toker, not able to get the stop. The res from Subcutie will happen. That was a very crucial res. They need Uranti in there to give them that team support. He's back up to a reasonable health level. Now the portal actually coming out there. I believe that was I believe that was actually Ozzy's portal there, and gonna get them to safety. It looks like they want to leave Ozzy in the 1v2 on the node they don't hold. I really approve of that move, and Urantian moving towards the Mansion should be able to pick up this decap unless Fanaram gets to him in time.
Yeah, and Subcutie looks like he's going to be sticking around that midpoint a little bit here as they want to make sure that Bob can stay alive. Zeroma's going to be holding on to that mid cap, and actually we're going to be seeing some interesting portal plays, I think, from these two teams here, or sorry, this team Final Form, as I mean, just as we just saw, sending Yura across across the map there to take on Fanaram. Zeroma's going to be adding to this one as well. They're just going for decap here. All they really want to do is prevent the point accumulation from happening on the side of Absurd. As long as they can accomplish that task over time, I think they have a shot here. However, Ozzy once again taken out here, and honestly, I really like Scrapper against that Mesmer because at any point, 5Gauge can drop the hammer with that Slick Shoes and hold them into one location. And if you get enough of, if you get enough instances of that player, that Mesmer, getting thrown into the Slick Shoes, you actually have a shot at taking them down rather quickly, despite them being on a Sentinel's ammo, despite them having that double evade well potentially, you'd actually do have a shot at taking them down through that.
Yeah, definitely. So Nos looking to go up against Zeromas here. SubQT actually under a lot of pressure as well. Toker and Wakey both sitting on him, but that 2-cap still coming out here for the Absurd. They will be taking up to a 100-point lead in a matter of seconds as this team fight seems to be everything. There is the Time Warp. I think that came out there from Ozzy. It's able to hold on to the cap still, but I think that was more of a defensive Time Warp, it felt like, because a few members were getting low, trying to get on top of Nos. Nos isn't in too bad of shape, does have his Reaper Shroud up in a few seconds, 50% HP on that, but SubQT now might be taking, he does go into the down state. Will the Stomp come out on the point? Zeroma's going in for the res. Isn't enough to get him up. It looks like they do get back into the fight. Urantium looking for a 1v1 over them in the mansion, but things are not panning out well here for Final Form.
Yeah, not at all. Already a pretty decent start here for the Absurd. I mean, look at them in team fights. They are actually pretty much dominating in these skirmishes here that actually are occurring. However, Fanaram right now actually losing to Yura in this 1v1, where Yura actually has gotten him down now to about 20% HP. Fanaram trying to hold on for dear life, doesn't have that legend swap for a couple of moments here, does get it just then and is able to get a heal off, so he's going to be back at 50% HP, holding on for a little bit longer here. However, back at the midpoint, blue team did actually somehow manage to hold on there, and it looks like they're going to be shoving most of their resources over towards that windmill where Ozzy actually managed to get a decap before Nos was able to get over there.
That's a big decap coming out from Ozzy. Nos is in the area. We have Toker and 5Gauge both looking to make a move. I think Toker knows they can handle it without him. He's going to stealth up. 5Gauge maybe just leaving this. No, he was just trying to get some boons there, but now moving into this to make it a 1v2. We'll have to see how long Ozzy can hold on, but back at the mansion, a big play went down as Zeromas threw down the Time Warp, got Urantium back up out of the down state. Of course, does have that Time Warp still back up from using the F5 skill, and they're trying to get this decap. They desperately need it. Down over 100 point. We have not seen a 2-cap yet. There's the second Time Warp. Like I said, no 2-cap this game from Final Form.
Look at Wakey's HP as he drops now. Fanaram forced out as well. And we're going to be seeing the decap again here. And we actually have Final Form with the only cap in the game. And they're going to be able to get Mansion in just a matter of time here and maybe move some people over towards that windmill where we do see Ozzy's portal down right there. However, he is now at about 20% HP. Looking at midpoint though, Fanaram has gone down here. Toker not in a good spot at all to save him.
That was an excellent surge in the miss by Bob right there. Able to get Toker out of that. Fanaram had a really good play getting onto the midpoint as he was being trained down by SubQT, but he will be eliminated regardless in the first 2-cap of the game, coming out for Final Form, who have a decap at the windmill as well. This is a really good position for them to be in. SubQT is going to come help Zeromas in this 1v1. They need to make sure they hold on to this 2 points. Don't overcommit to points they can hold with one Mesmer.
Yeah, absolutely. And make efficient use of your portals now. I mean, this is definitely the time to use that. I mean, you have the ability to go aggressive if you want to, but make sure that you're playing defensively, because now that you have this 2-cap, that's what it's all going to be about. Absurd are definitely one of the best teams in the world of exploiting weaknesses, and if you let them find one, they will do just that. So you have to make sure you play defensively in the scenario where you actually have the advantage against, I mean, again, one of the best teams in the world, if not the best.
Good defensive portal play that we just saw there from Ozzy, getting them out to safety, leaving Zeromas in the 1v1 against 5Gauge. That is okay with them. Now we see a big fight going on over at the mansion. Mid was just decapped by the Absurd, but Final Form is definitely back in this game. This 2v2 might go on for quite some time, so taking a look at the clock tower, Nos is pretty healthy, going to get some help from Toker, who are both trying to get on top of SubQT. There's the Time Warp coming out from Ozzy there, trying to keep them alive, trying to keep them in good shape here as they continue to hold on to this decap.
Yeah, and SubQT really needs to find a health button right now. Doesn't find it.
Toker's going to get
down.
this.
Ooh!
Gets it with the elite there. Toker showing us Thief can still win some games. Of course, it's not one yet. This is still anyone's game because
I
of an
was definitely
comeback.
hoping for SubQT to hit that legend swap and maybe try to get a heal off or something, you know, but wasn't able to get it in time there. Did go down. Yura to fall as well, as we do see Wakey going for the stomp here, is going to finish the job on Yura now and look to take out Bob next, as Bob is now at about 30% HP. and definitely in some trouble here as he has about 3 seconds left until his Herald is back up and might actually get a full heal from it if he doesn't spend dodges here.
I'm kind of surprised Subkitty didn't come back off of respawn, come to this mansion point. Urantian knows that Bob is still alive. Really good effort from Bob, staying alive for so long in that 1v3. Ozzy trying to get on point time. Will it happen? I don't think so. No, it won't. Still holding the decap at the midpoint. We saw Nas taken down by Subkitty. They're going to be able to get that cap back. Zeroma's still in that 1v1 against 5 gauge, not going anywhere anytime soon. This mansion fight is everything for the latter half of this game. Under 6 minutes left.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing for this this blue team here actually is the fact that portal did just go down. They were able to pull at least a couple of guys out that didn't need to be there and take Clock Tower. Now they're going to be able to maybe just switch out of that and go straight to the windmill. This might actually be a huge play from them. Looks like Subkitty is actually opting not to do that. We do see actually Nas come over, and he's going to be spending a lot of time rotating all the way back over somewhere else now. Looking at Mansion, however, we do actually see...
Gets his mantra off just in time. He's able to stay alive, but Subkitty's in the area. Subkitty might go in for the res. We'll have to see. It doesn't look like he's going to make that play. I condone that move. They're still holding on to this decap. Final Form has a lead on the other side of the map. Toker looking to try and take down Zeromas, who... Toker actually wanting this 1v1, letting 5 gauge roam elsewhere. Final Form are hanging on. They're doing an excellent job this game. What do you think the Abjure need to do right here to try and get themselves a 2 cap?
Continue at this pace right here. I mean, they're doing a good job of eliminating people across the board. They've found an answer to these mesmers and breaking down the bunker, and that's actually exactly what they need to do. And if they just continue at this pace, they're actually going to be able to get a quick retake pretty soon here, as they did just take down Bob. They're going to be able to get Mansion in just a matter of time. I don't think that anybody's going to be able to make it in. Ozzy does look like he's going to make that move. However, they've been, again, doing a great job of taking down those bunkers. If they continue to do that, they have a shot here for sure.
Back with the lead over at the mansion. Urantian was left in a 1v1, but he will be taken down as 5 gauge plus. There's the time warp coming out as the portal came out, but Toker going in for the stomp does not get it. The res onto Urantian will connect, and we still have a game on our hands as the Abjured holding on to the first cap in quite some time. 4 minutes left in this game. I would not be surprised if this came down to its timer.
Yeah, Nas is the only one here on the midpoint. Look at the condition pressure on him. He's just getting bombarded with damage here as Bob enters the fray as well. They get the stomp off. They're going to get the decap on that midpoint. So yet again, 3 points neutralized here as 5 gauge tries to hold on to this at least for a little bit longer.
It's not happening too long. He is under so much pressure over at the mansion. No, we did see Ozzy taken out by Panoram and Wakey. That means they had the upper hand somewhere. That was at the midpoint. They should have probably moved some resources to help Zeromas because they still have not managed to get the cap. Oh, they did get the cap at the midpoint actually. There it is, and now the Abjured with a slight lead here. Nothing too substantial, but Urantian taken down here. Bob trying to go in for the res. More than likely, actually, is just going to try and play defensively. This is anybody's to take.
That was definitely a misplay on Bob's part. He just kind of walked backwards and then just staff 5 through them after is already over. So definitely a misplay on Bob's part. I mean, I hope that didn't cost them the game, because that would be very unfortunate for this Final Form team hoping for a victory today. I mean, it basically means everything for them in terms of how they're going to end up at the end of the season. But Bob still has managed to get at least some form of healing.
It's because of Ozzy. Ozzy came out there and made some plays, but Bob taken down once again. Ozzy trying for the res, but Panoram going in for the stomp, connects it just at the last second, gets that stomp. Wakey's also in the area. Urantian looking to make a play here as well, possibly getting on the point, and we'll have to see what he decides to do as Urantian's so close to getting here. He is going to get on the point to help out Ozzy. There's the 2 cap. The 2 cap coming out here as we did see Nas eliminated over at the windmill. This is so close right now. 2:19 left in this game. Anybody's to take, but they have to hold on to the clock tower.
I don't know about this midpoint. Yura is not focusing on healing up his teammate as much as he potentially should be, and he's going to fall here. Ozzy looks like he's going to try for the res, but doesn't have much utility to pull it off, and does lose his teammate in the process. Does actually have his heal though, so he's going to be able to get his time warp off as well as get some healing going for himself. However, I mean, I think they're going to be able to hold on to this for at least a little bit longer, but Ozzy still...
Look at the Condi sticking on Ozzy. There's still a couple of members left in the area for Final Form. They need to hold on as long as they can. They need more support. Urantian off a respawn. Looking for a decap over at the mansion. That would be huge. Toker's somewhat in the area. He is actually going to notice that's happening. The decap at the midpoint. The Abjured are up 7 points right here. It might be a little bit more once the kill comes out onto Bob. Urantian looking for a decap here. We saw a portal actually back to the windmill. This is so close.
Yeah, Wakey's going to be able to come over here and support this fight between Toker and Uranti, and so this could actually be, I'm sure, its chance now to take this one here, as we do see Wakey coming in, and Yura's definitely going to have no ability to take on that 1v1 there. It's certainly not going to decap, especially with Toker turning back in, trying to put some damage on him, actually gets him extremely low here.
They can't afford the deaths. They just cannot afford it. 1 minute left in this game. This may very well come down to timer at the midpoint. Zeroma's still holding on to the decap. They need a cap or they need something else going for them. The kill onto SubQD connected over at the windmill. With him being down there, down even more right here. The Absurd, all they need to do is hold that one cap, not let mid get capped, and they're okay. It would take multiple deaths for them to actually lose this game.
Yeah, I mean, a big team wipe on the side of Absurd could cost them the game, but I don't see it happening. Chase right now getting pretty low here, but in terms of the bigger picture, with 30 seconds left, I think Absurd's I think they're gonna have this one, especially with Zeromus now sitting about 20% HP. Doesn't really have anything left at all, although he is gonna be able to make it out and get his mantra back up. I just don't think that with 20 seconds left, they're gonna be able to make up 17 points.
They need to wipe them here. It's essential. They will lose if they do not get multiple kills.
A burst play is necessary here.
I don't think that's happening. 8 seconds left in this game. The Absurd, an outstanding hold on their end to claim a victory on the Battle of Kylo. Timed out game. It will be 459-442. The Absurd coming out with the victory there. An astounding performance from both teams. Really impressive play on the side of both of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Final Form, first of all, coming through in a matchup that, I mean, definitely shouldn't have gone their way because, I mean, the Absurd is just such a stellar team. They've come together for so long and have proven themselves as, I mean, basically a winning team. That's what they've been for such a long time, especially in North America. But Final Form figuring things out, trying out new things, and I think that Final Form still, I think they have a shot at taking the map. Man.
I really do as well, and I think it was essential. The Absurd had such a really good lead at the start of that game.
Yeah.
Final Form came storming back with a 2-cap and a decap, claiming a lead actually at one point in time and holding on to it for quite some time. But, you know, like you said, all that Final Form needed to do was hold that clock tower, and they weren't able to do that. The too much damage come out, too much focus from the Absurd allowed them to come out on top and hold on to that final node they held. And an impressive victory from them, but you got to hand it to Final Form. I really think they could definitely have a chance on Temple of the
Yeah, I mean, that beginning of the match, like you were saying, was literally everything. I mean, they had such a huge point advantage already in the first couple of minutes of the game that it was hard for Final Form to come back, even if they played so well. But despite that, the Absurd were able to find kills across the board throughout the entire match for just so long, where in that situation, with this composition that the Final Form is running, they probably shouldn't have.
Yeah, I mean, that's really true, and we'll have to see what adjustments right off of the bat we actually see from Final Form. I'm curious, not necessarily class swaps, build swaps. I'm curious to see their opening split. What's going to go down for them, because allowing them to hold on to that, I believe it was a windmill node, for the Absurd at the opener, they weren't able to get any point accumulation whatsoever in the opening minutes, so they cannot allow for that to happen once again. They need to make a hold to where the Absurd can't push that third node and they can get the cap first, or push for that third node themselves.
And making use of those portals earlier is going to be the best way to tip the scales very quickly, because you can make sure that you get those portals deep and you can use them, utilize them efficiently and quickly, and make sure that you win a fight, tip the scales extremely early, and then go back and do the same thing somewhere else. It's instant rotations. It's basically free. As long as you at least spend some of their cooldowns, you can then leave someone and they will have the advantage. I mean, that's all you really need to have come out of these portals, and we didn't really see effective use of it last game as much as I think we probably could have. I mean, you have
100%.
You have teammates like Zeromus. I mean, utilizing those portals is one thing that Zeromus is so good at and known for doing, and we just didn't see it that much last game.
And most of the time that the portals were laid down, it was to get them out of a fight, and that's a viable use, don't get me wrong, but the big plays we've seen from Zeromus in the past is pushing an entire team to one node, portaling back to the other node, bringing his team back, smashing one guy sitting on that other node. Just incredible plays like that. I'd love to see that from Zeromus and Ozzy in this next game, especially when it's more than just the 3 nodes you need to contest. You need to contest Stillness and Tranquility buffs. That's going to be an important part. I would not be surprised if Tranquility goes uncapped all game long.
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility.
I mean, that happens quite a bit, but just the fact that there's portals in the mix now, and the tankiness even on the sides of both teams for that matter.
I don't expect that the Absurd is going to get any of one of those buffs, and I think that it's a possibility that the Absurd won't even play the buffs, And the reason being is that you don't really want to do that against Mesmers. I mean, especially these well Mesmers that have the ability to double precog. They each have the ability to do that. So if at any point they both decide that they want to cap a point or cap a node, they're going to get it.
Opening splits for both teams. Toker heading to the temple. Urantian looking for that altar. And we will have a 3-point split coming out for both these teams. Perhaps a little bit of a skirmish. We actually see one of the Revenants, SubQD, waiting for an assault, but Bob trying to hold off Phantom. Phantom gets onto the point in time on the other side of the map. Toker gets that cap again. That's what I'm talking about. Now the Abjured are going to have the upper hand for a little bit until a big push, or a kill for that matter, comes out here for Final Form.
Yeah, and it's all about Ozzy setting down the portal and heading back mid. And if they make effective use of this, like I think they actually can, then I mean they should have no problem with actually getting something going here. Zeromus on the point here. It looks like Ozzy's going to be taking his place for a little bit, as it looks like they're going to be trying to take Nos lower at least a little bit here as Zeromus pulls off. He might actually go over and help with this 2v2 that's happening over here. However, at any point, the portal can always come out. However, SubQD was not prepared for Toker to be there already here, and now he's in a little bit of trouble as he's sitting out about 20% HP, and Toker in a position to finish the job here and does just that.
Shadow trap. I mean, I'm seeing a little bit of crook inside of Magic Toker right now. He knows that that's going to happen. They can't afford to sit somebody there all game. Really approve of using that utility, and they are going to continue to hold on to that cap. Meanwhile, at the midpoint, there is the time warp from Ozzy, as Bob was in a bit of trouble. But this is that lead I was talking about earlier. Allowing the Abjured to get in this situation is what gives them the upper hand. It forces you to establish a comeback that might not even be successful in the end.
Yeah, and this is the thing about Toker, I mean, and actually this is the thing about Thief in general, is that third utility, since there's been so much reveal possibilities that have been kind of entered the fray in terms of all these compositions, especially with scrappers and the like, I mean, that third utility has kind of been a little bit open, and he's done a great job of finding something that actually works for him and with his team and against this composition that is really good. I like that Shadow Trap pickup, and granted, he's not going to be able to do much in the sense of fighting a Druid as we just saw, but I mean, at the very least, he's been able to help his teammate while still playing the role that he loves playing, Thief.
Yeah, and a good plus coming out there from Nos, getting Toker back up. They didn't want to afford that death on the side of Toker and giving Final Form that cap. Urantian, though, needs to get back on that point before it's capped. On the other side of the map, we saw SubQD taken down by Phantom, so we will have a 2-cap more than likely coming out here for the Abjured, who are establishing their dominance in game number 2, not wanting anything of the sorts of a comeback like the last game. Of course, the first stillness buff will be up in just about under a minute.
Yeah, and still nothing happening in terms of Final Form trying to get something here. I mean, they've done well in contesting this far node here, but still nothing to show for it, as Wakey has done such a good job of controlling this node for this Abjured team. I mean, look at it right here, that literally no ticks have been lost for the Abjured and the entire time that it's been happening here, and they still now have a 2-cap. They won Alter, and now they're going to be pushing some of that fight over towards the midpoint, where it's actually 5-Gauge versus Zeromus, and in this situation, I actually think 5-Gauge has a shot at potentially getting a decap here. I mean, look, at just a couple ticks away, or sorry, getting a cap eventually, rather, and we actually did see Yura being dropped here, and now Wakey's going to be able to move out, and still now 110 to 0.
The unfortunate part for Final Form is not the fact that they're down 115 points or so. It's the fact that Stillness buff is up and they have no use for it. Wakey's already in the area looking to get the cap. Is going to be bet by Urantian, but Final Form knows they can't give this up, but at the same, Wakey swirling wins. Is it going to land? Urantian gets the barrage down just in time. Almost gets the knock. He gets the knockback onto Wakey, but regardless, that buff doesn't mean anything for him, so it matters not that they go and get the cap.
Yeah, and Toker was able to get an elimination off on Bob here, who's going to be dead as well. So SubQD and Bob dead. And this has actually become kind of a worrying trend for me. I mean, SubQD and Bob dead a lot so far in this game and the last. I mean,
you could question the move to the Revenants. It really would have it helped them more if SubQD was on his main class, or Bob back on the Elementalist or the Engineer.
I mean, the thing that I think that they kind of wanted was a little bit of condition control, but I mean, is it really worth it when you're just kind of always dead?
Well, I'm not exactly sure if it is worth it. We'd have to see it compared to the other comp, but SubQD, as you were talking about, gets his heal off, is going to get through that portal, just laid down there. and get to safety, looking for a decap. He wants to avoid any possibility of a shadow trap over here, potentially. Maybe trying to get away from that. That's why he had some odd movement there. But regardless, finally a decap over at the Temple, but over a 200-point lead here for the Absurd. This is rough.
Yeah, we are seeing actually on the top buff Bob trying to take on Toker, but Toker actually winning this fight here, as we are seeing Bob now at about 30% HP. Toker trying to finish the job here. And it looks like he's going to be waiting his sweet time as he does try to find an opening. But, you know, looking over actually at the Temple here, we are seeing Subcutie and Zeromus try to take on Wakey and Nos. And so far, Subcutie has just been trying to find openings with Nos and try to kind of train him out. And honestly, Malixrev is actually a very good class at training down those Necromancers, but it really hasn't seemed like Subcutie has been able to really find much.
It's the other way around right here. Nos is the one training down Subcutie, and little did Subcutie no, Nos has almost a full Reaper Shroud, so even if he does get low, just pop that. There he goes, and he's not going to take hardly any damage. He's going to be okay for the time being. Building up to a 250-point lead on the Temple of the Silent Storm here. The Absurd looking so good right now, looking for a perfect game against Final Form, one of the potential teams who we thought might be able to take a game off of the Absurd.
Yeah, and this honestly comes down to, I mean, a lot of people were talking about, there was a lot of buzz between, I mean, having that double Mesmer, having that double Revenant, and seeing whatever the fifth would be, and it would be very good. And we're seeing it right here. I mean, is it really as good as people say it is when you're seeing 251 points on the board to none, to absolutely none? They have been able to get nothing on a map where people have been saying that Mesmers are literally everything, and still the Absurd have found a way to not only be in the lead, but also shut them out.
Yeah, that makes you question some compositions maybe in future games from other teams that might be looking to take up similar things with the Bunker Mesmers for that matter. Tranquility is up. 5Gauge is the only person down here, and this would be the only real comeback maneuver from Final Form, and not even paying attention to the buff. Ozzy trying to get here in time. Will he make it with the auto attacks? Does make it there with his staff and should be able to contest that for the rest of the game. But even so, the Absurd have established such dominance in this game. It's near impossible, I would say, for Final Form to stage a comeback, especially when you get that stillness buff for free.
I just don't know how you could ever beat Absurd's rotations. I mean, Bob was able to go over there. He thought, you know, gate is open. I'll make the move. I'll get the decap. And already Toker made it all the way across from Temple.
The first points of the game. Gonna be coming out here from Zeromus in Final Form. 5 points on the board. They will be getting the cap as well. And Final Form will not be giving that Absurd team the shutout.
Not at all. They hold on for a little bit longer here. Subcutie now trying to take on the 1v1 with Fanaram. Honestly, I kind of give it this one to Fanaram at the moment, but we'll have to see how this kind of plays out, as already, I mean, still the Absurd with the cap here, and this is going to kind of phase out as Zeromus does move in here, and we're going to be seeing Zeromus kind of take the place. Portal does come out though, and he's going to go ahead and leave as he doesn't want to lose that cap to Toker. He kind of moved in there. He's going to make sure that he holds on to that one. However, I mean, still 345 to 25 right now. I'm not so sure about this one.
The only way I could potentially see this is getting that Tranquility buff, which is not going anywhere anytime soon. Look at the health bars right now for Fanaram. I mean, or excuse me, for 5Gauge here and Zossi. They're hardly moving. It's not going to go anywhere. And I think both teams, especially the Absurd, kind of want to avoid making a push down there because they already hold such a domination right now. But they have to. They can hold on for quite some time. Not going to be an issue whatsoever. Urantian taken down over here at the altar. Nas just going to feed off of him, get some more of that Shroud, and they are going to pick up this 2-cap once again. As Subcutie taken down at the midpoint. They are down a lot. Urantian going to get stopped. They are just off the board.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like, I mean, almost got that decap there on the midpoint. However, just, I believe, 2 ticks away here. Bob trying to hold on here with his teammate in the area as well. However, they're going to put a lot of resources here, the Absurd, for taking Bob out, and they do manage to do just that. However, the stomp does come out from Fanaram there. Zeromus is left here basically alone as he has now about 20% HP, trying to get some heals for himself, but Subcutie's going to be able to move in just in time for Zeromus to probably go down, and does indeed. He's going to be going for that res, but does get ported around a little bit there, and going for it now.
Yeah, Toker getting the decap over at the Temple as well, so going to shut out any more point income for them. Probably take a 3-cap here and look to end the game. Wakey still in the downstate, but the res come out from Fanaram. Subcutie went in for the res. Able to get him back up. Not really going to mean a whole lot, though, because at this point in the game, this is virtually just complete domination from the Absurd. Looking to close this one out 2-0. No no letting Final Form back into this game like the last one.
I mean, they are able to get some kills here and there, but I think for what we are seeing from this Final Four team, with the fact that, I mean, they are kind of tanky. I mean, they have those double Mesmer, they have that Druid as well. You would expect them to kind of be a little bit harder to kill, but Absurd have found ways to take them down, and that is why we are seeing them take this game now 503 to 80. Absurd take it 2-0 over Final Form in a victory that was expected, sort of.
0 points for Ozzy there, as he was at the buff for most of the game. But as you were saying, the Absurd kind of expected to take that matchup. I did expect a little bit more of a fight on the side from Final Form, maybe questioning whether or not they should have ran what they've ran in the previous weeks with their compositions. But bringing something out that's new isn't always bad, per se.
I mean, I have to agree. I mean, basically the thing to kind of take away from this is that I think that we're going to be seeing kind of similar compositions coming out from other teams for these two maps. And the reason being is because of these two maps, as I highlighted before. I mean, Temple as well as Kylo, it's very good to have these kind of compositions for those two maps, and it's definitely going to be helping a lot of these teams out. But we have now seen that it's not the end-all, be-all. There are ways to get around it, and not just ways to get around it, but dominate it, as we saw just last match. So definitely looking forward to seeing how teams react to what they just saw. We might still see some of the same things. However, I'd be interested in seeing if any teams make some quick adjustments before their matches.
I think one thing to take note of is you're going to have a lot of those timed out matches this week. I think out of all the weeks we've seen, even the monthlies for that matter, this is going to be a week that it's going to be down to the final minutes, especially because you said multiple teams going to probably be taking Mesmers, and that mobility is crucial, is key. We didn't see it be used to its full potential like Final Form, like we probably would have thought, especially with Zeromus being,
Final Form,
one of the best Mesmers, and not really taking advantage, I feel, of that.
Final Form was one of the teams that I kind of expected that if a team would utilize this composition, I kind of expected Final Form to do it probably one of the best, and the other team probably would have been PZ off the top of my head. I mean, the reason being is that you have Zeromus and you have SupCutie. While I'm not sure if you would say they're the best two, I mean, you still have people like Mime out there as well, of course. They're definitely very solid players on that Mesmer class, and they can provide a lot of knowledge to their team. Even if SupCutie isn't going to be playing that role, he could definitely go with Zeromus and kind of teach them a little bit about that a little bit. So keep them up to par and make sure that they actually play it well. And Zeromus, of course, being on the Mesmer, you'd expect them to have those portal plays, and you expect them to utilize that correctly. You expect that team to know how to use them correctly, and we just didn't really see that much at all.
Yeah, and we do have our interview ready for the Absurd. We are going to be speaking to Chaith after a 2-0 victory over Final Form. Impressive victory over on Temple of the Silent Storm, but I want to take it back a notch to Battle of Kylo. That was quite an exciting match. How are you guys feeling after going up against that comp, staging an incredible comeback?
We're feeling a bit abused, lots of broken keys from mashing buttons, fighting the bunker mesmers, but we feel pretty good. The 2-0 victory is what we expected coming into to fight Final Form today.
And I know you guys have kind of been playing against this type of composition for a little bit, I mean, over the past week, and you guys have had some, at least luckily for you guys had some practice with it over the past week, I believe fighting against some of the other teams there in Pro League. However, I mean, we saw that first match rather, on Kylo is extremely close. And did you guys kind of feel like you guys found your bearings after that match and you were that much more confident, or what changed going between match 1 to match 2 to make that domination that occurred in match 2 actually what happened?
So here's the thing. In Temple of the Silent Storm, when we have multiple objectives beyond the 3 points, that's kind of when bunker mesmers fall off. So that is really a problem for their comp. And basically on Kylo, the reason why it was so close, we did try a couple things out. We made a couple rotation mistakes. Me and Nos attempted one time to 2v1 and beat Ozzy. And what happened was, obviously it takes a very long time. He sits on point and tanks us both for, I think, around 30-40 seconds, something like that. And then Zeromus came in and switched out with him, so nullifying all of our effort, basically. So that's why we fell behind on Kylo. But coming into Temple, you have 5 objectives essentially on the map that you have to kind of keep an eye out for at some points, and spread the fights over more points. And it's not going to be as easy for bunker mesmers to work their magic with portal and tanking things. But Yeah, I didn't change too much of me. I basically fought a Bunker Mesmer swinging my hammer both games, all games. So
One thing I want to pinpoint is Toker on the Thief. Thief is obviously not something you see a lot, and Toker is making plays
yeah.
left and right all over the map, doing an excellent job. Now, is that something you see him permanently being on? Like that's a part of your composition. You can work around what other teams throw at you, or is he flexible in the sense we know he's played Engineer, he's played Revenant a bit. Is that something we might see in the future from him?
I want to give some shout outs to the Toker God 420 right now. He's playing really well these last couple since I know him,
That
last
Shadow
couple
Trap
years.
too,
So
man, coming out
yeah,
there.
that Shadow Trap though. So Toker's rocking the Shadow Trap occasionally versus Bunker Mez comps. He's rocking that Impact Strike to finish people instantly. When he yells on TeamSpeak, "Oh, he's insta dead!" Everyone just gets so hype and like there's no downstate. Because basically, if you guys haven't seen the meta right now, Revenants use Infused Light and the Bunker Mesmers put the resistance on the body, and they just get everyone up instantly as soon as they go down. So the Impact Strike actually going off is super important. It makes us more happy than you could possibly know to see that happen.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
so
definitely something we noticed that first match actually with Toker getting that impact strike, definitely a huge pickup.
oh my
However,
gosh.
a lot of people have been talking about that Bunker Mesmer build, and it's been kind of a
Mhm.
big issue, a lot of buzz being stirred around it. But you guys found a lot of different ways to actually deal with that Bunker Mesmer, and we've seen Ozzy and Zeromus go down in that first match actually quite a lot. How did you guys manage to actually take them out? Because I actually remember them being dropped a little bit because they would be coming into fights one by one by one, trying to kind of fill holes, fill gaps, and
Mhm.
how did you guys manage to do that?
So what Bunker Mesmers do is they spend cooldowns to 1v1. So I'm fighting a Bunker Mesmer, I'm swinging my hammer at him all day. He's blowing well with precognition, he's blowing his like Chaos Storm, he's doing shatters, even maybe occasionally like a continuum split. And then when they rotate out, not only do they have travel time where they're being out rotated for when they walk around all the time to switch people around, they have to make up for that using Portal. But when they get to the fight, oftentimes they're a bit drained and they don't have all the cooldowns to go dump something on a res and get it. So essentially, when they go for reses, we just cleave it all out, and eventually get the Bunker Mesmer low enough to when he wipes, then they all wipe, kind of. So the only real way to get a kill and get the game going these days is to actually kill them all at the same time with AoE pressure, which is very unfortunate. You can't really get a kill until the Bunker Mesmer is dead, and he's the last to die. So it's just a very slow and a very slow-paced tanky meta we're working with right now. And you may see ways to deal with Bunker Mesmer, but to be honest, there's not really that much you can deal with it. It's kind of a lose-lose situation sometimes. You get in with Bunker Mesmers. You can't really. It nullifies the mechanical skill of who's better in the 1v1 because it's unkillable for every 1v1. So yeah, there's pluses and minuses, but Bunker Mesmer obviously has to be played with in a certain way.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, and congrats on your victory over Final Form, taking them
Thank
out
you.
2-0. That was Shaith from The Abjured. Our next matchup is going to be PZ up against Spooky, our match of the week. What can we expect?
You can expect crazy matches, man. Crazy matches. That's honestly all I can really say about that. I mean, PZ and Spooky have been known to kind of play against each other a lot over the course of the last 2 weeks, especially with PvP leagues coming out. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be an interesting match. I think we might see a little bit of a mirror composition coming out, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But, I mean, both teams need this win here. Spooky needs this win to hold on to their chances of getting that first or second place, and PZ needs this win because if they don't win today, they're not getting first or second. There's no way.
0-3 would be tough to come back from. Guys, we are going to head to a short break, and when we're back, we'll have Team PZ up against Spooky. Stay with us. Guild Wars 2 ESL Pro League for North America. We have our second matchup of the day ready for you. Team PZ up against Spooky. As I mentioned before, game of the week should be some very exciting ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the featured match of the week. And something interesting to take note of, actually, is this is going to be, at least for the first map, a mirror composition. So really coming down to just complete and utter raw skill at this stage, because you can't say it's the composition at this point. I mean, you can't.
You really,
it's the same composition.
You really can't. Better rotations, better mechanical skills are what it's going to be coming down to. Let's head down to our first match on the Battle of Kylo. So we have both teams joined up. Take us away with the red.
All right, looking here first at Sunmist, a.k.a. Sunfish. That is going to be Sword Shield with Mace Axe on the Viper's Amulet with Rune of Durability. And he's going to be on the Retribution and Corruption and Herald there. Next up, we do have Mime going to be playing Mesmer this time, actually, as opposed to the Necromancer that we've seen him play. Back to the old main, going with that Sword Shield with the staff here, Sentinel Amulet and Rune of Durability. He's going to be taking up Inspiration, Chaos, and Chronomancer. Next, we do have that second Revenant up for this team. Going to be Sword Shield, Staff with Rune of Durability, this time with Marauder Amulet. And he's going to be taking Devastation, Invocation, and Herald. And actually, next we do have Physics, and that's going to be the new fifth, as Cade did leave the team. Cade, pretty much, I mean, in my opinion, the MVP of last week's match
100%.
versus Final Form. And Physics is going to be taking his place, playing the Mesmer today, and that's going to be Staff, Sword Shield with Sentinel Amulet, and Rune of Durability as well. So Inspiration, Chaos, and Chronomancer there. So 4 guys running Staff, Sword, Shield on this team already here, and that's going to be Schnicky in the 5th slot there with Dagger Focus here on the Tempest, and that's going to be Celestial Amulet with Rune of Durability, and of course Earth, Water, and Tempest are the specializations for him.
Taking a look over on the side of the blue, Team PZ, Java going to be on the Elementalist running the Dagger Focus with Soldier Rune, Celestial Amulet. He'll be taking Earth, Water, and Tempest with those 5 shouts we saw earlier from Wakey in the previous match. Next up, Marvin going to be on the first of 2 Mesmers running the Sword Shield with the staff, running Rune of Durability, Sentinel's Amulet. He'll be taking Chaos, Inspiration, and Chronomancer. K-Pud, the first of 2 Revenants, he'll be taking that staff, Sword Shield with the Holbreak runes. He's opting for Marauder, going for a Power Revenant here. He's going to be taking Devastation, Invocation, and Herald. Zeus playing that second Mesmer. He'll also be on the Sword Shield with the staff. He is actually going to be on Celestial Amulet, though, running with the Rune of Durability. He'll be taking Chaos, Inspiration, and Chronomancer, and Gravity Well. So looking for a bit more damage with that Celestial Amulet and the Gravity Well, a little bit more control with CC. And finally, Muffin's going to be the second Revenant. He will be taking the Condi variant. He'll be taking up Sword Shield with the Mace Axe, running Rune of Durability, Viper's Amulet with Corruption, Retribution, and Herald. So what are your expectations here? Who do you think is going to be able to take these sets?
I mean, it's really up in the air. I'm actually kind of afraid to pick something at this point. The one thing I do like, though, about these Mesmers is that they've all kind of picked up no field, of course, except for... Actually, they all have picked up no field. I do really like that. It's definitely going to lend to their ability to cleanse those conditions, and also rip boons, which are, I mean, definitely equally as important in these matchups here, where boons are going to be extremely prevalent, and of course so are the conditions. So those no fields are actually going to mean a lot, of course, as well as the resistance that do come from them because of Temporal Enchanter there. So they're going to be able to get a lot of resistance out for their teammates, and of course the Malix is going to lend to that, as well as the durability runes that are going to be taken by both these teams. So expect these teams to have a lot of defensive capabilities, and expect them to actually kind of draw each other out into these team fights, and it's basically going to come down to, I mean, who has the better raw skill?
Yeah, let's look at what's going on here as Marvin heading to the mansion. 3 going to the windmill on the side of Spooky, looking for a very defensive opening split on their end, sending 2 of the Revenants looking to pick up early damage on Zeus, already landing a Surge in the Mist, clipping him for a little bit there. Muffin's in the area as well. We are having a bloodbath right off the start. A lot of damage coming out on both these teams here at the beginning stages of this game.
Yeah, and Zeus, honestly, being the Celestial Amulet, I mean, they have to be kind of aware of that, and they have to be conscious of the fact that he is running that amulet that isn't as tanky as some of the others, some of the other Mesmers in this matchup, and basically kind of using Sunfish to make sure that they're able to kind of take him out and exploit that. They might actually be able to get an advantage because of that.
Back to the midpoint where a big fight is going down. Happy Kid able to land that elite in Shiro as Java now taking a lot of damage. Look at the con. He's taking on him. He's going to be taken into the downstate. So much spike damage coming out there from these guys. He's going to Vapor Form onto the point. K-Pud in the area going in for the res with Muffins. They should be able to get him back up into the fight, and this game is still scoreless.
Yeah, Java still under a lot of pressure though, as he is out of that water there. So now he's kind of forced to use his shout heal, and now he doesn't really have anything left here. He was trying to get a little bit of an air overload out there, trying to get some offensive pressure out, but still not really a whole lot going for him here, as he still has found no heals now. Still getting so low. K-Pud low as well. Muffins once again going for the res, is not able to get it with the staff 5.
Surge of the miss from Happy Kid, mitigating any chance of a res coming out there. Really excellent play, you gotta say, coming out on their side of Spooky. The kill onto Java will connect, as now Muffins and K-Pud running for their own lives. 5 points on the board, nearly 2 minutes into this game. As I said earlier, it's gonna be a very slow-paced game, but with K-Pud down as well, we might see a cap here from Spooky.
Hello? Midpoint? Hello? They all left K-Pud downstate, and Snicky now was pushed off by K-Pud as well, so they're going to be waiting a while now to get that full cap. That was a huge miscommunication there for that Team Spooky. However, they are eventually going to get this. They still do have that 10-point advantage. Muffins now under a lot of pressure, however, as he is now at about 40% HP. It looks like Sunmist is going to be trying to finish the job there, as Muffins is still so low right now.
They chased
back into
him
that fire field
all over the map, and they finally get the kill. Zeus actually going in for the res here. Should be able to pick it up. Physics actually no, going in for the stomp. Might get it. It does land. Physics gets that stomp. Gonna make it 15-0 here at the start of the game. And Red Team, as you said, it was a very delayed cap. Finally getting that keep node for themselves, claiming the first cap of the game. Over 2:30 into this one.
Yeah, K-Pud now getting chased down as well. Happy Kid trying to get a kill here. Java trying to follow up his teammate and maybe get a little bit of support to him. However, Physics is going to be right there to lend to that, and now K-Pud going to be able to get pretty much a full heal off and rotate into this fight, where Zeus right now is at about 60% HP. We talked about this before, actually, where if they can kind of exploit the fact that Zeus is Celestial, make sure that they get some damage into him, they can create some good AoE pressure, just like Chase was talking about. If you put down a lot of AoE, then it's very hard for them to come back, and then you might be able to just wipe them all at once.
Yeah, and Zeus is actually fairly low in cooldowns here, but a lot of pressure is onto Sunfish right here, who he's looking pretty good. So is Physics, but they are outnumbered 3-2 over here because they are sitting someone near that midpoint. Don't want to give up that cap. Allowing somebody to sit that midpoint will give them such a lead if they can continue to stall out these other nodes early on in this game.
Yeah, Physics right now is under a lot of pressure here. It looks like PZ might have a shot here at getting this cap at Windmill. However, Physics, not able to make it back in time now, and he's going to be under a lot of pressure now. Though Sunfish is going to come over to alleviate at least some of that, perhaps, as K-Pud does look to take the kill off on Sunfish, and they do not want that to happen. They need to get out of here quickly. It looks like that is going to be the case, and they might actually...
Physics, if he's able to make that jump, he should be okay. We do see an FGS actually being dropped there from Schnicky.
The good block.
Trying to keep them alive back at this midpoint. We've got a huge team fight going to be emerging as blue team holds on to that cap over at the windmill, set down a portal, make use of it, and get to this mid fight where it really matters. Is red team not giving up. On the other side of the map, though, it looks like a lot is going down as Marvin's under so much pressure. Look at the Condi's taking on him.
Yeah,
he's able to mitigate it with resistance, but will it be
Look
enough?
at the resistance on him, though.
Gets the mantra off and gets his heal off. Even so, now it looks like Happy Kid might be taken down. Sunfish is taken down. Might be a two-man wipe. Mime's in the area trying to go in for it, but the stomp onto Sunfish is going to happen. They almost had Marvin, but that resistance held him alive for the time being.
Yeah, now Happy is in a little bit of trouble too, as he's at about 50% HP, doesn't really have a lot of cooldowns left, and with the chill on him there, that's going to prevent that facet of light from coming out as well. And now he just went straight into that Shiro stance, where he's now he's going to have to wait about 4 seconds now to get that potential full heal from that Dragon stance, and looks like he might actually go for that right after the shield here. Does indeed, and he's going to be pretty healthy now. But they need to win this. I mean, they have a pretty good advantage here. It looks like they're actually just going to portal out of this one.
I kind of
maybe
like
shift it over. They know that they're going to exploit it. They're going to exploit Zeus right here. They're going for it.
This is a really good move. We already had the 1v1 between Sunfish and Zeus. Now they're going to try and plus this. Marvin, though, is going to be in the area. Marvin and Zeus together might be unkillable, to be honest. It's going to be very difficult for them. Marvin's really good on the Mesmer, and we'll have to see if they're able to keep themselves alive, especially with Muffins coming in here. They thought that they were going to be able to exploit it. ultimately, really good rotations coming out there from PZ. Kept them in that.
The thing about Marvin, though, that I don't know if they even realize is that Marvin is not using Well of Precognition. He's not using actually any Well at all. He's not using any of them. So they can actually maybe take advantage of that despite, I mean, he does have Sentinel's Amulet. He is going to be pretty tanky. He's going to be hard to take out. If he does ever go into that sword shield, he's going to have a lot of ways to mitigate damage, but if you can get through those blocks, you have opportunities at that point to then stay alive. However, Sunfish is not going to be the person to do that. You need to have Happy in this situation because he's the one with the Marauder Amulet. He's going to be the one that's going to be able to get through the blocks. He's going to be the one that doesn't need to worry about resistance as much as Sunfish does.
Yeah, we
and
just saw
he
a
is.
portal back to the midpoint from Physics, but literally no Zeus is in the area as well, trying to keep himself alive. He has no cooldowns left. Is he able to do it? Shield block up in a couple of seconds, doing a really good job of keeping himself up. K-Put's in the air. Schnicky is as well. Schnicky takes a lot of damage going in for the res. Get a stomp, connects there, coming out from K-Put, and Spooky might lose their only cap as Schnicky is forced to lightning flash up to the top of the clock tower, and there it is up. That early point lead that we saw from Spooky not going to be holding on any longer.
However, Marvin right now is going to be dropping here. It looks like I don't think they're going to be able to get any support to him. It looks like they are going for it though. The feedback goes up from the res, and Muffin's now taking a little bit of pressure too. They get a good amount of damage out on top of both Marvin and Muffin's there. Zeus going to be portaling out, and they're going to leave Marvin here once again, and they have to do it all over again.
They really do. It's very, very unfortunate. Mid is almost capped by PZ. Couple ticks actually went in favor of Happy Kid as K-Pud wasn't able to land that Surge of the Mist and drive him off of that node. Still, K-Pud almost gets taken up. He did have his Facet Heal ready when he went to that Glint stance, so should be okay for the time being, but PZ are going to probably take a lead unless we see a cap come out here from Spooky, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon as this mid-fight seems never ending.
Yeah, it does indeed. I mean, honestly, though, Happy Kid is kind of in a position where, I mean, he's going to drop, but, I mean, are they going to be able to get the res? Gravity Wells goes down, though, and he drops instantly there. Physics now at about 50, Zeus now at about 50, and PZ has an opportunity here. They just got the lead, 150 to 149 now, and they have the opportunity now to take out Schnicky, and they will indeed. Schnicky and the downstate K-Pud going for that stomp, but Schnicky going to go ahead and vapor off and try to make his way over to his teammate. Not going to make it all the way, though.
This is where we're going to see PZ thrive. They are doing an excellent job. Same compositions as you mentioned earlier, so it comes down to rotations and skills, and they continue to hold on to this cap, not give up any other nodes, and make great use of their portals. They should be okay to take this game. 6:20 left in this game. Neither team's even at 200 points. This is a very slow-paced game. The kill on the Sunfish, though, the res comes out from his teammate Happy Kid, and they are forced off of this node.
Yeah, Physics going to be able to rotate in here against Java and hold this point neutralized for pretty much forever until someone does decide to come in here. And it looks like we are going to be seeing an addition from both teams, perhaps, as it looks like Happy and K-Pud are going to bring their little 1v1 over to the point in just a matter of time here. And we are going to be seeing Zeus do just the same as he moves over as well. So we're going to be seeing a 3v2 advantage.
But this
Possibly.
2-cap, the fact that there's a 2-cap right now and potentially a 3-cap, especially with Happy Kid going down, there's the Time Warp, actually Mime coming in as well, getting him back up. But this 2-cap, it's the fact that these teams are so tanky, that is why it's going to take so long for any progress on the side of Spooky to actually come out here. And I wouldn't be surprised if Team PZ take the game off of this, but with Zeus dead at the midpoint, K-Pud gets driven out there by Happy Kid, they could definitely turn things around. They just need to make really good rotations here.
Yeah, honestly, the thing about this is that holding things down is pretty easy. It's the retakes that are very hard. It's hard to get an assault going onto a point, a successful assault, and actually take them down before they're able to just rotate back in. And we're actually seeing both teams each now with an assault onto a point, a successful one, and able to find vulnerabilities inside of these bunker comps here, and they've been able to figure things out, at least for now, and perhaps now we'll be able to see Spooky maybe try to take that same kind of ideology and maybe put it to work now onto Mansion, where they're going to be trying now to take this one as well, as Physics got pretty low, but able to get pretty much a full heal here, and now they're going to be looking to put pressure on both Muffins and Java probably. However, you have to be very, very wary of the support that's going to come out from Zeus and Marvin here. Marvin rotating off though.
As soon as Mime left that midpoint, threw down the portal, needs to make sure he gets back on the. As soon as he went there, there's Mime, going to be there as Marvin saw him leave. It felt like he saw him leave. I mean, they moved at like it felt like the same exact time. They need to make use of that. They need to take advantage of the 5v4. But even so, they're rotating off the node. We saw multiple members for Spooky go back through that portal, looking to take on the fight against Marvin in a 2v1. Doesn't look like any reinforcements anytime soon. K-Blood and Muffins both moving towards Marvin. There's the time warp. He will be okay.
Yeah, I mean, with K-Ped coming in, they're going to have one more thing to worry about, and Marvin being in that situation is going to be able to provide some support for K-Ped to actually really thrive in this fight, and with Muffins now adding as well, it's going to look pretty good for PZ in this fight right here, as Sunfish actually already now down to about 40% HP, could be dropped, actually does indeed get dropped. Are they going to go for the stomp? Looks like that is actually going to connect.
Oh, the quickness stomp. Even though the time warp was down there, oh wow,
that is actually about as quick of a burial we're probably going to see in this matchup right here. That is absolutely the quickest we're probably going to be seeing today.
That was a crucial stomp as well, because now PZ are going to be, or excuse me, PZ will actually have the upper hand here. Mime, the only one standing on the node, he can't really get off the node to help Schnicky. Schnicky's going to have the Vapor Form out. They're giving the 2-cap here to this blue team.
Yeah, and Schnicky was not able to get onto the point.
I'm talking about potentially over there at the mansion, but Schnicky down here and actually gets back up.
Yeah, he is going to get back up indeed. Doesn't have any cooldowns though, so I mean, if at any point Muffins does try to follow him out, and that is going to be the case, then Schnicky has to worry about just staying alive at this stage, but he is going to go ahead and have Wash the Pain Away ready, and he's going to be able to get healthy once again. However, we're still seeing basically 80-point advantage in favor of PZ. Now they now have the only cap on the point, as they did, like you said, just get decapped. Happy Kid now getting extremely low, goes to the portal and just gets whipped by K-Bud there.
What I expected was for PZ to win that fight at the mansion and move over to the windmill, or excuse me, win the fight at the windmill, move over to the mansion and dominate them, because it's their side of the map. Red team would have had to come clear across. I expected that, but they actually went for the decap at the midpoint. Still a really good play on their end. Picking up, it's basically the same thing. They're moving at the same pace here, and they're going to have over a 100-point lead with 2 minutes left. No secondary objective that's going to give them a substantial amount of points. That very well could be gained in favor of PZ.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, I mean, if they're able to get maybe this big wipe over here on the mansion, which is a possibility. I mean, look at the AoE pressure that's being put out by this team. However, we are seeing actually Schnicky pull away, and maybe a little bit too soon, as they had, I thought they had a chance there. I thought they had the possibility. K-Pod taking so much heat, actually does drop. Are they going to be able to get the res? Zeus now taking a lot of pressure as well, and they might actually get a double here. Just a matter of time, as they're going to be continuing the assault now onto Zeus, who, remember, is that Celestial build. Does have the wells though, so does have a good amount of sustain despite.
Even so, if they get this kill, I fear it doesn't matter, because Java's in the area. They hold on to a 2-cap. They claimed Clock Tower. We've got 115 left in this game. I don't think it's even possible for Spooky to take a victory here. And even if they get the stomp onto Zeus, and it looks like they will pick it up, now they have to get through Java. Zeus is going to be off a respawn probably to this point before Java actually dies here. We do see Physics drop the portal and leave this node. I fear this is over for Spooky, and they need to start looking ahead at Temple of the Silent Storm and what they're going to change up midway through the game, because early on they looked magnificent.
The biggest thing that I think that they need to do is make sure that Happy is always near Marvin, and you see that actually happening right now as Happy is trying to assault Marvin, but he kind of needs someone there to support him. I mean, Marvin's going to be doing a lot to actually prevent a lot of the damage that's coming from Happy, but he's going to be the answer to sway that fight to make sure that they actually do take him out, and they need to do that because that is a point of vulnerability. The fact that he doesn't have that well of precognition, I mean, they could definitely kind of exploit that, and again, Zeus being Celestial, they could definitely exploit that as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of potential for this team here, Spooky, to actually come back in the next 2 maps and take this one, but they need to make sure that they might make the right adjustments going forward, and Mime being dropped there. 5 seconds left on the clock. We are going to be seeing this one, of course, go into PZ's hand. Again, a team that has yet to actually win a series, now taking a game again off a team that is now undefeated.
I mean, they're 2-0. So, yeah, like you said, again, they beat the Abjured in 1 game last week, and getting this set victory, like you said earlier, is crucial to them having any potential success in the first season of Pro League here. and not even being relegated for that matter, or even going up against those challenger teams, which potentially could be a thing if they drop to 0-3. But if they are able to pick up a victory, they could be looking at a top 2 spot the future.
They could. I mean, basically what needs to happen is that now that they've lost their first 2 games against teams that are going to be in contention for those top slots, I mean, of course, Absurd, Apex Prime being 2 teams that are undefeated. I mean, their first 3 weeks going against teams that are, I mean, top 4 teams. I mean, definitely a very hard approach to the season, but they've been able to manage quite well. And if they win the rest of their games for the rest of the season, if they're able to take games against some of the other really, really strong teams like Spooky here, like Final Form later, I mean, they're going to be looking at a potential, like you say, for actually making it into those top 2 slots, provided those teams actually lose.
Yeah, let's go ahead and head over to our second map on Temple of the Silent Storm as we have both teams joined up here. It doesn't look like any substantial changes on either side here, as they probably don't want to be changing up their comps. I don't feel like that was a comp ordeal. I feel like that was just a lack of rotations midway through that game, because we saw Spooky actually open up with a really good opener, claim a decent lead at the beginning of that game.
That's the thing. I mean, they have to make sure that they play very defensively, and honestly, in my opinion, I think that when you have that double mesmer, as soon as you get the advantage, just play it. Because the retake is so hard when you have this kind of composition. When you have, I mean, at what point are you ever going to be able to see Marvin or Zeus go into a point and take that and actually take that against anybody on this red team? I mean, any one of them could really kind of hold those points, and all you have to do is make sure that you're not getting taken away by these Revenants. And if you have the Mesmers rotating effectively, that just won't happen. And especially if you can get a lot of pressure onto that point, some counter pressure, and you're never going to lose that. But they did just that. They kind of lost their lead, and they need to make sure they don't do that.
Yeah, in our last set against with the Abjured and Final Form, we saw Final Form take 2 Mesmers out. Both these teams have 2 Mesmers on this map. I'm curious to see how they're going to play off Tranquility and Stillness buff. Something I'd like to see is being prepared for that buff. If they're about to head to a team fight and Stillness is up, Tranquility's up, especially Stillness is up in 30 seconds, you know, drop that portal close so you get there in time if you need it, for that matter. It's something we really haven't seen a whole lot of, or even drop it where you're at, head to that, and if you need extra support, drop the portal again so everyone can get through and help you out at one of those buffs. And I think playing around both of these Tranquility and Stillness buffs will be the key to this game, as both teams really are going to need to bring out their A game here. As we do wait for both of these teams to ready up, you did mention that this, of course we both mentioned this was a really close matchup. Do you think Spooky can take this and head to a game number 3 on Forces Niflheim?
I mean, it's definitely within their, it's within the realm of possibility for sure. I mean, both of these teams, like we said before, I mean, it's basically all down to raw skill. Both of these teams are very equally matched in my opinion, and honestly, I think it could go either way. At any point, it could go either way, and it really comes down to who gets that first lead and then holds on to it, because, I mean, like we said, it's very hard to make sure that you get those really successful assaults. We didn't see too much of them as opposed to what